The Battle of Palikao was fought at the Bridge of Palikao by Anglo-French forces against the Qing Empire during the Second Opium War on the morning of the 21st of September 1860. It allowed Western forces to take the capital Beijing and eventually defeat the Qing Empire. Background: the Anglo-French force had been trying for 2 years to get to Peking. In 1858, the signing of a peace treaty stopped the potential visit after capturing the Taku forts that defended the river, which were returned to the Qing army. In 1859, an armed attempt to enter the river was stopped by barriers across the river that resulted in a dramatic defeat of the Anglo-French forces when they tried to take the forts from the river direction. Sailing from Hong Kong in July, the capture of the Taku forts on the 21st of August 1860 had opened up the river route to Peking. The Chinese authorities at the fort had capitulated all 22 forts along the river as far as Shenzhen, including that town. The aim of the Allied French-British expedition was to compel the Chinese government of Peking to observe the trade treaties signed between their governments at Tianjin in 1858, which included allowing the British to continue the opium trade in China. Lieutenant General Sir Hope Grant was the British commander, with Charles Cousin Montauban, Comte de Palikao, in charge of the French battle. The combined Anglo-French force marched in a leisurely manner from the Taku forts, with the French on one side of the river, the British on the other. Tianjin was reached on 1 September 1860 and negotiations were opened with Peking. The negotiators, led by Sir James Hope Grant under a flag of truce, were captured by the Qing forces, which led to an immediate cessation of negotiations. The army advanced from Tianjin with a cavalry screen, and when they reached Chang'e 1 they met a large Chinese army with a 5-mile front. There was a skirmish between cavalry, then with the Allied artillery silencing the Chinese artillery. The Chinese army scattered and retired. 2 days later, on the 20th of September, the cavalry discovered the Chinese army in a strong position in front of a canal connecting Peking with the Peiho River, with 2 bridges at Bālǐqiáo. The Allied army attacked frontally and the cavalry attacked from the left, forcing the Chinese back over the 2 bridges. Trapped by the canal, the Anglo-French force inflicted massive losses on the Qing army. Beijing was invaded thereafter. On the Qing side, Zheng Rinzhen's troops, including elite Mongolian cavalry, were completely annihilated after several doomed frontal charges against concentrated firepower from the Allied forces. Aftermath: with the Qing army devastated, the Zhàn emperor fled the capital, leaving his brother, Prince Gong, to be in charge of negotiations. Negotiations centered around the release of the prisoners. The talks failed, and on the 11th of October engineers threw up works and batteries to break through the walls of Peking. Everything was ready that evening when at 11:30 p.m. the gate opened and the city surrendered. The prisoners had been taken to the Ministry of Justice in Beijing, where they were confined and tortured. Parks and Locke were returned with 14 other survivors. 20 British, French and Indian captives died. Their bodies were barely recognizable. The Anglo-French forces entered Beijing. Anglo-French troops in Beijing began looting the Summer Palace and the Old Summer Palace. Harry Smith Parkes and the surviving diplomatic prisoners had been freed. Lord Elgin ordered the Summer Palaces be burnt down. Starting on the 18th of October, the destruction of the Forbidden City was even discussed, as proposed by Elgin to discourage the Qing Empire from using kidnapping as a bargaining tool, and to exact revenge for the mistreatment of their prisoners. The French troops were led by Charles Guillaume Cousin Montauban, who was then awarded the title of Count of Palikao, and a decade later, was made the 31st Prime Minister by Napoleon III. In the Treaty of Shenzhen, the Qing court agreed to all Western demands, including the payment of indemnities and the acceptance of foreign diplomats at the imperial court in Beijing. Because neither Qing nor Western diplomats discussed the opium trade, the treaty effectively liberalized it.